Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at the Dark Pictures anthology, Man of Medan. Man of Medan is the first part of the new horror anthology series from the creators of Until Dawn, focusing its first outing on a group of rich teenagers who go deep-sea diving and find a ship lost at sea some 70 years earlier after a mysterious and terrifying incident. Man of Medan closely follows the Until Dawn formula for creating a choice-driven horror adventure game. A group of teenagers who look and sound like they walked right out of a slasher movie are isolated in a spooky and horrifying situation where nothing is quite how it appears, and one wrong choice or flubbed QTE can potentially mean the death of a cast member. There's a lot that worked really well about Until Dawn, from the novelty of the gameplay and setting, the really well-drawn characters, and how well the story was interwoven and gave your choices, both good and bad, some real weight. I gave it my overall Game of the Year in 2015 for a reason. However, Man of Medan more or less brings over every element of Until Dawn into a new experience, both what worked and what didn't. There's an old saying that comedy isn't as funny the second time around, and the same goes for horror. It's just not quite as effective the second time around. There's a lot that works well in Man of Medan, but none of it works quite as well as it did the first time, which makes the cracks and flaws of the formula a little more apparent here. The three major strengths of Until Dawn are all still somewhat present and accounted for. While the novelty of the gameplay and setting of Man of Medan is gone, it's still fairly enjoyable to peel away the layers of the story and figure out just what the heck is going on, with a couple of really neat ideas around how a game like this can work. The five main characters are all walking horror tropes, but they're infused with enough personality to make them likeable enough. And the story is really well put together, with a central mystery that keeps you guessing until the third act reveals start letting you piece together what's really going on. I was particularly fascinated by the meta-story. Man of Medan, and I'm assuming all the games in the Dark Pictures anthology going forward, are actually stories you're creating with the curator, Tales from the Crypt style. And we also noticed a strange, seemingly unseen figure in the background of a few scenes, watching the events unfold silently, like a creepy version of the observers from Fringe. I'm really looking forward to picking away at this overarching narrative in future installments. I had a good time playing Man of Medan, especially in the new multiplayer mode, more on that later. But I was also aware of some flaws and frustrations that hold the game back from being a masterpiece. They don't outright ruin the game. Like I said, I had a good time with it, but they're definitely here, and they're definitely noticeable. Chiefly, I think I'm just over QuickTime events as a gameplay mechanic. They were fun in the mid-2000s when Quantic Dream proved you could build a game around them, but here they've started actively pissing me off. While they help create really cinematic scenes with some great choreography, the spectacle is lost on me when I'm not actually paying attention to what's happening, because I need to be focused on watching out for the next button prompt, lest my character die, because I was too busy enjoying the glorified cutscene I don't have time to actually watch. It doesn't help that there's basically no immediately apparent distinction between a button press QTE and a button mash QTE, a fact which directly led to a character death on my playthrough. Not that directly controlling the characters is much better, it's surprisingly difficult to get them walking in the right direction or stop where you want them to stop, and a lot of the exploratory sections of the game are actually quite awkward. And while Man of Medan does some really solid work building its atmosphere with a thick sense of unease and dread, thanks in no small part to some exceptional use of static camera angles, its insistence on relying on lame jump scares really does all it can to cheapen the experience. A steam pipe bursting or an unexpected face all appearing suddenly and accompanied by a loud noise certainly make me jump in the moment, but a lot of these scares are cheap, aggravating, and take away from the otherwise brilliant atmosphere rather than adding anything to it. One new feature Man of Medan does bring to the table is multiplayer. You're able to play with one friend online or up to 5 on the same console, the latter of which is absolutely the best way to experience the game. It works by dividing the characters between players and having them pass the controller between scenes, and it's a bloody brilliant way to play Man of Medan. Even though I got a little shortchanged thanks to some limited scene time, I don't think I could actually go back to playing this type of game solo. That's how effectively well done it is. If you have some like-minded friends available for a few hours, this is definitely the best way to play. Man of Medan is a solid start for the Dark Pictures anthology. Supermassive have resurrected their Until Dawn formula with an enjoyable, if clunky, first entry, which brings forward the previous game, both the good and the bad. While I'm hopeful that they'll tweak the formula a bit for the next entry, Little Hope, which is teased at the end of the game, This is still a solid horror adventure when played alone, and a great time when played with a few friends in movie night mode. If you're a horror fan or a co-op fan, it's definitely worth picking this one up. I just hope Supermassive can iron out some of the kinks for the next outing. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got tons of awesome videos coming every week, including review impressions, indie game of the week, debate-driven top 5 lists, video essays, and our weekly podcast where we discuss games, gaming culture, and the games industry. We also stream 3 times a week at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. But most importantly, have a fantastic day.